Hello and welcome everyone to the first TipHaus Insider webinar of 2026. It is crazy how many of these we have done, and I'm excited to start off the year with a fan favorite. This is the GM Training Master TipHaus and Empower Your Team webinar. This is specifically designed for people who are either new to TipHaus and have just been brought into like a GM role where they're going to be using TipHaus for the first time. To get them up to speed, or for people who just need a refresher. We're going to go through just the various elements of TipHaus, mainly the client dashboard and the employee app, and make sure you have access to every one of your views, you understand what is on those views, and that you know where all the buttons are. Before we get started, I want to point out a couple pieces of housekeeping. On your screen right now, you'll see a comments section. I took a look at the list of attendees today. We got a nice long list, so go ahead, leave a comment, tell everybody where you're coming from, say hello. We love to hear from you. And then as the webinar proceeds, go ahead and drop your questions in there. I have a couple members of my team going through and answering questions and just kind of, there to assist with anything that maybe I skip over or miss something you might want to hear more about. At the end, we'll do a little bit of a question and answer session. So if your question isn't addressed by my team members, I'll address it personally at the end. So once again, just to kind of go through what we're going to be covering today, there's a few main goals for this webinar. I want you to know, what is TipHaus? Why is your organization using it? What are the benefits of it? What does it do? And how does it do it? And then what do you need to know about TipHaus? Now, everybody's TipHaus account is different. I'm going to be going through the standard kind of views, the standard kind of buttons. There's lots of room for customization in here. So if you still have questions after this is done, there is an awesome support team at TipHaus. I would very much encourage you to go reach out, and I'll show you how to do that. Ask for a personalized session. We can walk you through any kind of standard procedures, any kind of unique things about your account, any questions about your specific rules or your specific tip logic that maybe we don't cover in this session. To start, there is a distinction in TipHaus between kind of two main views. One is called the client dashboard, and that's where you're going to spend most of your time as a GM. And then there's the employee app, which is an awesome tool for your staff. You have access to it as a GM, but I'll go over exactly what your staff can see so you can kind of understand where their questions are coming from. And so you can understand when you should direct them back to our support team and when maybe we'll direct them back to you or loop you in on that kind of stuff. So in terms of this first question, let's dive right in. What is TipHaus? TipHaus is a tip calculating software at its core. There are lots of other bells and whistles, lots of other cool things that TipHaus does. But if you're doing it right, it should be a huge time saver for your team, where we're grabbing data from your systems. We're performing calculations based on math and logic and rules that we set up so that you can go from running your service to running your payroll and having your tip calculations seamlessly. That's the goal here. Where that magic happens is on that client dashboard. And on the client dashboard, there are kind of 5 key pages that we want to talk about, and then 2 newer pages that are kind of more in the realm of bells and whistles. So let's go over really quickly the home page, the breakdown, the settings page, the tip logic page, and the reporting page. It sounds like a lot, but hopefully once I'm done kind of going through this, you'll have a clear idea of what each of these pages is for, when you should be visiting these pages, and how you can quickly navigate to the data that you want to navigate to. Ideally, on a day-to-day basis, there's really only one page that you should need to go to. And so we'll go over a payroll piece at the end and kind of show you, after this is all said and done, what does a kind of an average session in TipHaus look like for a GM, where you go in and you access the dashboard and you get the data out at the end of your pay cycle. I'm going to share a client dashboard here, and this will look exactly how it looks when you open it up. This is a demo account. So if you've been to any of these webinars before, you'll recognize my TipHaus demo account with its 3 fake restaurants here: Bogey's Bonanza, Quixote Valley, and Seagull Stacks. This is exactly what you would see on your side. If you come in here and you have just one location, it'll be automatically filtered to that one location. If you have access to 3 or 4 stores or 20 or 100, you would see them listed here. You could view them as a group, or you could view them individually, however you see fit. Today, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be just taking a look at Bogey's Bonanza and kind of diving into each of these pages and making sure we understand what's present on those pages. So with this in mind, when you open this up, you have the home page. and you can navigate these main pages from the left-hand side of the screen. The home page is going to have different metrics. So you can think of this as kind of infographics or your center for taking a top-down look at your data. So you could do this on a daily basis. You could look at a wider range. Something like last pay period is generally quite useful. In this showing tab, you can pull out different metrics, different things that you're interested in, different things that you want to see. Maybe you don't want to see this one or this one, but maybe you want to say which job codes are taking home the most in tips per hour. So you could do something like take home by job code or take home per hour by job code, or maybe you want to see who is just getting the highest tip percentage left by guests. Are people leaving one employee a 15% tip and another employee a 25% tip on average? This is all here at your fingertips. I kind of pared this down before the session to just the bare bones. So you'll see your servers and your bartenders and how they're getting tipped out. So in this case, our servers are making a little more than our bartenders, which is generally flipped. So maybe this is a good piece of data to show you. Maybe I need to have the servers give a little bit less money to the bartenders, or a little bit more money to the bartenders, so that the bartenders are taking home more than the servers. You can view this in graph form. You can customize your views. You can do all kinds of things. Similarly, tip percentage. Who are your people who are just killing it and getting awesome tips from the guest, and who are your people on the right side of the graph that maybe need some work and maybe need to see how they're interacting with guests and why they're getting such low tips. So all kinds of awesome ways to view this data. This all lives on the homepage for you. Not something you're going to be using day to day, but definitely something to be aware of and something that you can use to make some good decisions that are just data-informed decisions. All right. I want to go down now to the reporting page. So I'm going to go all the way down here and kind of show you what kind of data TipHaus ingests. So if I look at yesterday here, you'll see that I can view my sales, I can view my work shifts, I can view old snapshots of calculations from past pay periods, and I can view any reports that I've requested out of TipHaus in the past, kind of see what people are grabbing out of TipHaus. In general, we want TipHaus to be kind of running off of clean POS systems and clean labor sources. So if you think about the reporting page as kind of the inputs into TipHaus, this is what you're giving us as raw data that we're going to make calculations on. So ideally, you're just kind of living your life as normal in your POS system and in your labor system, making sure people are making sales appropriately, making sure that they're clocking in under the right job codes, making sure that they're clocking out at the end of their shifts. And what you see in TipHaus here should be a one-to-one with those systems. So you should see all the sales that happen on that day. On each of these kind of table displayed pages, you'll see an export button. You'll see a show more, show less button. If you show more, you'll see every piece of this, every piece of each sale. So who made it? What's the sale ID? What's the payroll ID? What job code was the employee using when they made the sale? What was the total of the sale? What was the subtotal, the tax, the credit card tip, the gift card tip, the service charges? What time was the sale opened? What time was it closed? You could go in and actually click on these bubbles to say, okay, what was actually on the check in terms of items? Which categories were each of those items? Was it a liquor or an entree or something else, a food item? And then you'll see distributions as well. So in this case, a server made the sale, so they are doing a little bit of a tip out to the bartenders. They're tipping out 10% of the drink sales on this ticket. So you can come in here, you can see excellent levels of detail. But I would say this is probably more detailed than you want to see day to day. Awesome if you want to look at a gigantic check, but I'll show you in a minute exactly where you can go to kind of see a higher level data of kind of calculations based on all sales rather than looking at individual sales. But this is here for if you want to see it. When you come to work shifts, you're going to see how people are clocking in and out. So when do they clock in? When do they clock out? How much time is that in hours and minutes? Did they declare any cash tips? All of that stuff lives here. This is probably the most important part of TipHaus for you to manage, is make sure your staff are clocking in and out of the right job codes so that we have the right job codes on their sales. We know exactly how much time they're working as a bartender so that they get tipped out appropriately when the rules fire and when the logic fires to say, hey, these job codes get to these job codes. Well, if we don't know how much time you're working, we don't have a good job code, we don't know what role you are working, very hard for us to make accurate calculations. That said, if you do make a mistake, and an employee makes a mistake and a bartender comes and doesn't clock out, we will give you a notification that'll say, hey, there is a big red missed clock out notification. I'll show you exactly who didn't clock out on that day. If you see that, all you got to do is go into your point of sale or into your labor system, adjust the clock out. TipHaus generally automatically syncs every 15 minutes, or you can come up here and grab this sync button and you can sync back as far as you'd like. So maybe you made an edit to a shift on the 11th to fix a clock out. You could submit and TipHaus will pull that in and recalculate automatically. If you're keeping up on stuff throughout the week, throughout the pay period, likely when you come in, will already be synced. Everything will be ready to go, and you'll just have good calculations with no missed clock outs at all. Pardon me. When you look at the right-hand side of any of these things, you'll see these edit buttons. This would allow you to quickly fix a clock out in TipHaus. So maybe this clock out doesn't exist and you want to go and type in 154 here to fix it up. You certainly could do that. Just be aware that nothing in TipHaus pushes back into your other systems. So your POS system, your labor system should always be the point of truth. If you want to edit something in TipHaus, you certainly can, but just know that's not going to automatically update that shift in your labor system for wages or any other considerations. It will only be in TipHaus. That being said, in a pinch, you could definitely go in there and fix that up. Just be aware you might want to go back in your other system and fix that up to make sure the wages are calculated appropriately as well. As I mentioned earlier, you can see old breakdown periods here. If you want to go see exactly what people were tipped out from the 12th to the 18th, you can go download that. Super handy in a pinch. And then report exports just kind of shows you any reports that you've requested. With this data, I do want to show you what happens next. So we take these inputs, we take your sales, your work shifts, your job codes, and we run them through TipLogic. I mentioned I pared this down to keep this as simple as possible. This is the easiest way to kind of understand tip rules, tip sharing rules versus tip pools. And I've kind of pared this down to just a server bartender scenario. So you have your server waiting tables, you have your bartender behind the bar making drinks. You want to tip out your bartender based on how many drinks are being made. And maybe you have bartenders coming in and out through the day. So you also want to kind of zone in on which bartenders are present for which drinks. So remember, we have that sale open and close time. We also know when bartenders are on. So we know which bartenders are present for which sales. So we know which bartenders are making which drinks. So tip sharing rules allow you to give a standard percentage based on different criteria from one job code to another, or from one group of job codes to another. So in this case, our servers are looking at their sales and they're saying, take 10% of any beer, liquor, or wine, calculate that out and give it to the bartenders in tips, but specifically give it to the bartenders who are present for each sale. So if somebody's there in the morning and you're making a sale in the evening, you're not going to give it to the morning bartender, you're going to give it to the evening bartender. There are all kinds of ways to set up rules and determine how this works. This is just one example. But what we will do is we'll look at all of those server sales that are tagged when the server clocks in and starts making sales. And we'll look at all the bartender minutes that are tagged when bartenders clock in as a bartender. And we'll look at all the criteria on the check that you want us to look at, and we'll just make the calculation. This is going to be run through every 15 minutes as well. So if we pull in a refund on a sale or something like that, it will automatically calculate. If you make an edit to a bartender shift, it will automatically calculate for you. Now, bartenders aren't going to tip out anybody in this way, but bartenders are going to be back behind the bar making their own sales with their own tips. And what we want the bartenders to do is to pool all of that money together. So all the tips behind the bar need to be pooled together. Again, if you're working alone, you shouldn't maybe share with the other bartenders who are there in the evening. So what we do is we make a tip pool, and these bartenders are going to come in and they're going to share based on time of sale and based on this bartender job code. So all the bartenders will put their money into the pool, and then it'll look at each sale and it'll say, okay, this sale was from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Well, which bartenders were on the clock at that time? If you're alone, you take that whole tip. And it goes to the next sale and says, okay, noon to 1. Well, the AM bartender was still there and the PM bartender was still there. So it looks at the minutes of each bartender on the check and it splits it up accordingly. Maybe the AM bartender clocks out and a PM bartender comes in. They work a sale from 9 to 10 PM and they're the only bartender present. that bartender is going to get the entirety of the tip on that sale. And they're going to take that tip because they're the only one present during the sale. So these rules can be configured on all kinds of different pieces of logic. They can be configured by different tip sources. They could work for cash. You could have one rule for your credit card tips, one rule for your service charges. You could say, hey, I don't really want it to be based on time of sale. I really just want to take the whole day's tips and just look at everybody's minutes worked during the day. You can set it up that way. So I would encourage you, if you're new to TipHaus, communicate with your org admin or communicate with somebody who's been using TipHaus prior and go through your rule set and make sure you understand it, or reach out to support and ask us. We are happy to help with this kind of stuff. You will see when you're in the system, you'll see a chat bubble down here. Go ahead and make good use of that. It is 100% free, and my team will help you. If you say, hey, I just want a rule review and I make sure that I understand how everything's working, we'll hop on a call with you. We'll figure it out, and we'll make sure we're on the same page about any questions you might have. That is awesome for any kind of payroll question, any kind of question at all, no matter how small. You'll also see this help center. The tour will let you arrow through these things. So if you ever forget, Michael said something about the difference between tip sharing rules and tip pools, but I don't remember what it is. Click the tour, it will go through and it'll give you an idea of what's on this page and what everything means. And then there's also Learning Center articles. So maybe you want to understand the pros and cons between sales-based rules and tip-based rules, or why would somebody use tip sharing rules instead of a tip pool to accomplish this or that? Lots of different content there for you to go through. Lastly, I'm going to come down to the settings page. So coming all the way down here, and I'm going to show you a couple things. For each location, you'll be able to see employees, you'll be able to see job codes, you'll be able to see users and roles and different permission sets. When you reach out to support in that way, the key thing you want to remember is that you're likely at a GM permission set. Maybe you're at an org admin permission set. The difference would be your org admins on this list. These would be the people who are able to edit rules, able to change your pay period, able to make global settings changes. But oftentimes the GMs are the ones who are actually on the floor and they kind of understand the rules that are made. GMs can do everything that they need to do for day-to-day service. They can make edits, they can resync, they can do all that kind of stuff. But if you reach out for a rule change, we will look at your permission set and say, okay, we'll need to loop in an org admin here to get permission to make those changes. So just be aware of that. If you are reaching out, we will protect your account, we'll keep it secure, and we'll do the things that you have permissions to do. If you do need to update permissions at any point for anybody, this is where it would be done. Lastly, I want to point out the pay period. When we take those inputs and we run them through the rules, that is in one of two states. It can either be locked up or it can be open. You can view that here. For the current pay period, it's always going to be open. For the previous two, we could lock or unlock. So this is protected behind org admins, but we could always ask them to unlock. What you could do is maybe somebody comes to you way down the road. Maybe just today they came in and they said, hey, I forgot to clock in correctly back on December 26th. That pay period is locked. What can we do about this? You can come in here, you can unlock this, fix that clock out, resync, get the right data out, and then compare. This is how much we paid you versus how much we should have paid you. Incredibly handy for doing these kind of backwards calculations. So just be aware, you're not locked to the current day, you're not locked to the current pay period. If you want to make changes, we can go backwards in time and we can make those changes happen for you. So kind of gone through how TipHaus works, all the pages here. I want to hop up to the breakdown page and show you where you'll spend most of your time. The breakdown page is going to be, again, a giant table. You'll see the export, you'll see the show detailed view, you'll see your pay period toggles match with your pay period settings. So more than likely, you'll come in here and you'll just want to see the take-home number for the employee. And this is our post-calculation number. So we've ingested all your data, we've run it through the rules, and now we're going to spit out the number you care about, which is how much do I actually have to pay these people. To get to that number, everything that we've done is visible on this page. So you'll see the total columns here. These are pre-calculation numbers. How much did we bring in on your raw data? You'll see tip share nets and tip pool nets here. I'm actually going to switch to the current pay period. So tip share nets and tip pool nets, this shows how much did you give out to other people through tip sharing rules or receive. You could open this up. You could see different dates. You could see different checks. You could see which rules are firing. And say, okay, well, Ashton shared from server to bartender this amount on this check based on these totals. You could export this. Excellent for answering employee questions. If they say, hey, how did you get to this take-home number? This will live there. I'll also show you how employees can interact with this without needing to come to you. And then if there was any pooling going on, which looks like in this case there isn't, you would see the difference between what a bartender put into the pool versus what they took out. So what you get is a nice read left to right. You say, okay, well, this is the total tips and service charges that came in for an employee. This is how much they gave out or received through the tip shares and the tip pools. So you kind of just add these to these, and it gives you the take-home number. And this is the post-calculation amount that you need to pay your employees. So everything in TipHaus is just how fast can you get to this take-home number, export it, and then get it into your payroll. To do that kind of export process, the button's right here. We can build custom reports for you. So if you want a custom payroll report, we can certainly do it. Get you just the columns you need. And ideally, that's kind of the whole process. I'm going to show you a full payroll process really quickly. It's just maybe 3 or 4 steps. But before we do that, I do want to show you the employee app. So in that settings page, you saw the employees and their emails. They can go to my.tiphaus.com and register for the employee app with that email. And what they get in there is kind of a ledger-based view rather than a table-based view of the breakdown is the best way I can think to put it. So if I come in here and I show you an employee account, rather than seeing a bunch of columns that go left to right, you're going to see a bunch of rows that go top to bottom. And they're going to be just showing you your data for the employee. Same kind of date range filters, same kind of pay period filters. It does give a nice warning here that says, you know, hey, this is our current take-home number. If a refund happens, or if a manager changes the clock out on your shift because you clocked in and out incorrectly, this will adjust. So this is an approximation of what you'll see. But you'll see this kind of, top to bottom. So how many tips did I bring in? How many of them did I share out, or did people share to me? In this case, this is a bartender receiving from a server. So you can see kind of which job codes are sharing to other job codes. Not possible for employees to backwards or reverse engineer this to kind of see what individual employees are taking home. Just a view for them to understand their key metrics, their hours, their distributions, their take home. And that is there for them in great detail here, but only for them personally. The tabs across the bottom kind of match those pages I went through on the client dashboard. So you do have work shifts here. You do have a metrics page, just like the homepage in the client dashboard, where you can see different charts and graphs and how much am I making per hour over whatever date range I have set here. So fantastic tooling to answer questions that employees didn't used to have access to. So they might have very easily known this is how much I make per hour at my restaurant job. They might have had a rough idea on how much they're making in tips per hour. Now they can actually see that kind of data right here, which is awesome for an employee to have, to know, with pretty good accuracy how much you're going to make for every hour you work, all things included. There is this earn tip access page. I'll show you what this looks like for people who aren't active. But if you're not using earn tip access, this will just show up as a sign up for earn tip access. And if you click your button, it'll say, oh, your employer's not using this feature yet. And then you have your profile page. On the profile page specifically, there is a contact us button. So if your employees have questions, they can certainly come to us. We will answer every single question we can to kind of take that load off your back. By having access to this data, a lot of that load is going to go away. Employees will be coming to you ahead of time saying, hey, I'm looking in my app. I see that I clocked in and out incorrectly. My tips don't look right. So a lot of problems will just surface automatically. If we do have a question that we can answer, hey, I don't think I got enough money from this event. We're not going to know exactly who should have received from the event every time, especially in unique cases. But we know who to contact. So we'll loop you in if we need to, but most things we'll answer on our own. They get access to their own help center. They get access to their own tip distribution settings. So if they click here, they can see the tip sharing rules and the tip pools that they're using, and hopefully answer their own questions, which is the main idea of TipHaus, is just streamline everything, give everybody the tools for transparency, get all of the human error out of it by just ingesting things and giving you numbers based on automations. And all of that just works to keep you compliant as a company and make sure that there's no favoritism or no tip laws being broken, that there's clear records, that if anything was to go wrong, that you have a team here that can help you understand any mistakes and correct them, or in the ideal case, avoid those altogether. So this is the employee app. If you were to log into my.tiphouse under your client dashboard login, you would get access to all of the employees who have employee access. It's a read-only view, but if you do want to see what your employees specifically see, you could log in and see it that way. All right. We're coming up on time here for my speaking portion, but I do want to kind of just condense this down. An average payroll process with TipHaus. This is how it goes. You're going to eyeball the breakdown page, make any adjustments for any missed clockouts or correct anything that you might see that's incorrect. Take care of any unique sales issues. Maybe there's a event that you want to customize or something like that. Again, reach out to our support team. We can show you how to customize. Resync if you have made changes and make sure that the system reflects the changes you've made. And then export. All in all, this should take you somewhere in the realm of about 15 minutes, unless you're doing a lot of adjustments. What this looks like in Dash is this. You come in, you go to the breakdown page, you'd select your pay period. You say, oh, maybe there's a missed clock out here. You change it in the POS. You sync back to just kickstart a sync with TipHaus, or you could just wait 15 minutes and we do it automatically. But you can kickstart it and save some time. Wait for it to update, and then you click export and you have your file. And that should be about it. So a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different tools you can do, lots of things that maybe your company is using specifically. But for most people, quite easy. A lot of those tabs you might not click into once every 6 months, or maybe even every year. You might just be using the breakdown page. I mentioned a couple other pages on the screen. One is the Earn Tip Access page. That is a payout system, and it is fantastic. This is a way for you to offer electronic payouts to your staff. Employees could still keep tips on paychecks if they'd like, but you could also offer this payout program. Employees sign up, you click a payout button, and an amount goes to their payout method of choice. They could either sign up with a card through us, link an existing card, and get their money faster. That is by far probably the biggest thing that employees want, is access to their tips as quickly as possible. With this, they can get their tips next day. So I would definitely recommend looking into this. Their business registration to get signed up is maybe a 10-minute process. Once that's ready, employees get signed up. You work with a TipHaus expert to kind of get you through your first payout. And then we add a amount paid out column to your payroll report so that your payroll company knows to deduct that portion that's already been paid out, but tax it appropriately. This is incredibly hands-off, incredibly easy to use. And again, it gives the employees a choice. So maybe there are people who want to get their tips in a lump sum at the end of the pay period. They can continue to do that. But maybe you're looking at new hires that want something faster, and the restaurant across the street gives tips in cash. And you want to kind of match something like that with that speed of cash, kind of the traditional system. This is a very safe, easy, effective way to do it. If you're a new manager joining your company and you're looking for a way to make an impact or make a splash, being the one to champion something like this, bring it up to your org admins, say, hey, this is something I would like to offer to the staff. I think this could be a big upgrade. Yeah, person who does that for the staff would definitely be a hero. And this is free for businesses as well. So no problems there. Just an add-on, just a bells and whistles. There's no cost with this TipHaus. This is just something that is in your page and can be turned on whenever you're ready for it. The other one is another one to impress your staff and make them happy. Cheers by TipHaus is our QR code tipping program. This is another one completely free to use. Same sign-up process, just kind of go through the 10, 15-minute business sign-up, and then you get access to QR codes. You can configure them. You can brand them with your own colors. You can make a splash. You can put these on to-go bags or give them to your delivery drivers or put them on a tip jar at your event space or something like that. It just gives a point of contact for a guest who might say, hey, I would love to leave a tip, but I didn't bring any cash. Or, your delivery driver delivers the food and they say, oh, thank you so much. I don't have any cash to tip you. Well, not a problem. Just scan the QR code, leave a tip, whatever amount you want, leave feedback for the restaurant so they can see why you're leaving the tip. It is just a fantastic way to get more tips to your staff. So definitely don't sleep on this one. There's no minimum usage. A lot of times people say, I would love to do this, but I don't know if it's worth it for $5 extra in tips to my staff a month. If that's what it comes out to, and it's rarely used, well, at the end of the year, your staff has gotten $60 extra that they wouldn't have anyway, and I'm sure they would thank you for any little bit they could. So, excellent product, easy to use, quick sign up, and there for you whenever you're ready to turn it on as well. Last but not least, I know we're getting close to time here. There is a 2026 Tipping Changes in Industry Trends report. Go ahead and scan this. I'll leave this up as I kind of describe what's in here. I read this myself. It is an awesome overview of how restaurants are doing what they're doing. So if you're curious about what your competitors are doing, what the industry trends are overall, our team has spent a lot of time digging in, pulling out metrics, getting you kind of the answers you need. So if you're curious, like, are people doing sales-based rules? Are people doing tip-based rules? Are they using time of sale? Are they preferring daily? All that kind of stuff is in there. This also, what I found kind of most useful when I read through it was kind of looking forward to 2026, looking into OBBBA, one big beautiful bill, no tax on tips type of things. What do you need to be aware of and what might be coming down the pipeline for you? And it's broken down into these awesome little checklists that are like, these are things that we recommend doing to make sure you are prepared to be compliant, prepared to submit your taxes in the way you're going to need to submit them, prepared to make the best of this for your employees. And it's all data driven. So this isn't just our feelings on it or our opinions. This is pulled from the data we pulled over 2025. So fantastic. If you scan this right now, you will definitely get all the information you need. I think that is it. Thank you all for joining. Again, if you think of another question, ask us. I love answering questions like this, and I love talking to people in this kind of format. So thank you for attending. These webinars go on YouTube. So if you missed out on anything and you had to hop and deal with a restaurant emergency, don't worry. You will get a recording sent to you, and these will also be posted on YouTube. All right. Have a fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you all at the next webinar.